scenario was Chicago Fire Department, and they had the backdraft explosion in there. All right, I don't know how many of you are familiar with a backdraft, or even if you've been involved in one, or if you even know what it is. It's my understanding that you get a fire in a confined space that runs out of oxygen, but still burning. It's still heated. And when it gets oxygen, you want to look out. Now, we went to a fire down Stokesdale one time, and I was just inside the front door. The next thing I knew, I was laying out in the middle of the yard, about 20, 25 foot, laying on the ground. Now, 200 pounds, 6 foot tall, and I wound up 20 foot out in the yard. The only thing I could think of when I got up, did you get the license number of that back truck? It just ran me over. All right, and I don't know if it was days, weeks, or months later, we were up on Nickel Street, John Chumway residence. And there again, they had a fire in one of the rooms off the living room. And was contained in that one room, but there was no oxygen in there. Again, I was just inside the front door. And again, I was laying out in the middle of the front yard. That damn Mack truck followed me up there and ran me over again. So they've got a lot of force. And in retrospect, the Peak feed mill fire, we were drawing the feed off on that and had a spray nozzle on the bottom, getting the few embers that would come out. Now the thing is, the oxygen got to the fire quicker than that spray did down here. As soon as the oxygen got to it, you had the explosion, and we lost the building. At the time, I don't know if we realized that that's what was going on, but I think that's what did happen. Now, we responded to a fire out on the Orebred Road beyond Whitneyville, and it was a hay fire. Now, years ago, we had a lot more farmers, we had a lot more barns, and a lot more fires. We used to lose 3, 4, 5 barns every year, there for a long time. Now, that barn out there, they put the hay in the barn loose, just bulk. The fallacy, or the bad thing about that type of operation is that you can't always bank on the weather being perfectly dry. And this is what happens. You get a little bit of moisture in that hay before you can get it in the mouth. And then you get spontaneous combustion. Now, with the rolled hay they've got now, every once in a while you hear about there's a hay bale on fire. That's all it is, just spontaneous combustion in that hay bale. Now, the only bad thing was years ago, that was in the barn. We went out to that fire, and we were there, good Lord, it seems to me a couple of hours. Mansfield's probably there. And we poured water on that hay mound. Water does not soak through all of that hay. It just doesn't do it. You could go downstairs in the basement of that barn and look up through the floorboards, and you could see the fire. But it wasn't getting and you didn't dare go down there because you didn't know any second it might let loose and you'd have all that burning hay on top of you. And so they started drawing it off on the same principle that we used on a feed mill fire. You draw off a fork full of hay and hose it down. Now the thing is soon as that fire got air, it was all over. It just, wham, you had an explosion. And we lost a barn. And so, I don't know how many of you have ever been in a backdraft, but they pack a lot of water.